Hello everyone, I hope your October is off to a great start. Today we are going to talk about all the books I plan to read in October. So the operative word here is plan. Let's not talk about how I really failed my TBR for September. I believe I have 13 books on this TBR. This is despite me only reading like 3 books off of my September TBR. We love that for me. I'm doing 2 readathons this month. I'm not sure why I keep doing this to myself. On the one hand, I feel like my reading is slightly more successful when I follow a readathon, but it's also like so much pressure because there are so many prompts for both of these. So let's get right into it. Let's get into my TBR. The first readathon I'm doing is Gothtober, which takes place the entire month. This is hosted by Hannah's Haunted Bookshelves, Olivia's Catastrophe, who I really love, and Leticia Garcia. So the first Gothtober prompt is Disability Rep, a book with disability representation. Now for this prompt, I'm going to read The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is a book I've been wanting to read for a while because I love the sci-fi show. The main character has very crippling depression, so that is my disability rep read. And also I'm just really looking for an excuse to read The Magicians. It's just a book I've been putting on my TBR for a while but not getting around to. How I would describe the concept of The Magicians is if Hogwarts was a university with drugs and sex, and there was a touch of Narnia in there, but way darker. I'm okay about magic schools, but when they can be done in a really interesting way, I am all for it. I've also heard kind of mixed reviews about it. Like some people really love this book, and some people don't really like it and think the show is better. I don't really know what to make of this, so I'm gonna read it and find out for myself. Next up is Bones, a book with bones either on the front cover or in the title. For this prompt, I'm going to read The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. I believe I received this in an owl crate last year. So the main character of this book is called Rin, and she and her family run a graveyard. The title, The Bone Houses, comes from when the dead rise, and they are called bone houses. So if I'm not mistaken, there is an attack of bone houses, and Rin has to deal with that. So this is supposed to be very fairy tale-like, but also very creepy, which is perfect for this month. Next up is Oldest Purchased, a book that has been on your own TBR for the longest. So this isn't strictly my entire TBR, but more from my physical TBR. So Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye, I am pretty sure I've had this book for the longest. I must have got this book like early 2019, but this is supposed to be set in a Japan-inspired fantasy setting, and you have these 2 trained warriors called Sora and Damon, and they try to infiltrate a group of mysterious soldiers who have appeared, and it leads them on a lot of political intrigue. I actually started reading this book last night. So far, I'm not really caught by it. I might actually DNF this if this doesn't catch my attention in the next, I don't know, 30 pages or so. And also the Goodreads reviews are kind of mixed. So if you've read this book, let me know if I should soldier on, because I'm not sure. The next prompt is Red, a book with the color red on the cover or in the title. For this, I am going to read The Phantom Coach, which was compiled by Michael Sims. This is a collection of Victorian ghost stories, and of course I've been wanting to get more into Victorian literature recently. I think my boyfriend's mom gave me this a while back. I've been putting off this book both because of dense prose, which the Victorians were known for, and also because I'm generally not a horror reader, but it is very seasonal, and of course I've been wanting to read more Victorian stories, so I'm really hoping to get around to this month. BIPOC Author, a book written by a Black, Indigenous, or author of color. For this, I'm probably going with The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second book in the Poppy War trilogy. I read the first book for Tome Topple a few months ago, and I really loved it. This story takes place in a fantasy version of what is basically modern China. The main character is Rin, and she's trying to get out of a really bad situation by enrolling in a very prestigious military academy. She's disadvantaged by her class, and and the circumstances of her childhood, but nonetheless she studies and makes it to the top. And along the way, she discovers she has magical abilities. And of course, looming over everyone's minds is possible war with another nation, which is basically Japan. But yeah, I really loved the Poppy War. I think Rebecca Kwong has a very interesting take on Chinese culture. As someone who pays a lot of attention to the Chinese geopolitical situation, it was of course going to be an interesting read for me. So I am wondering if she's going to take it to another level in the next book. Female protagonist, a narrative led by a heroine. So basically I really needed an excuse to read City of Fallen Angels by Cassie Clare, so that's what I'm going to read for this prompt. This is the 4th book in Cassie Clare's Mortal Instruments series. I'm basically reading this series more for completion more than anything because there's so many books in the Shadowhunters universe that I can't read until I've read all of the Mortal Instruments books. Lady Midnight is a book I've had on Audible for forever, but you can't read that series without finishing Mortal Instruments. So this series does have a female protagonist. It's Clary Frey. Foreign Country, a book that takes place in a country foreign to the one you currently reside in. So for this prompt, I'm going to be reading Dangerous Remedy by Kat Dunn. I believe this is a fantasy take on the French Revolution. I feel like this era of France has been really popular recently. I'm not sure why. But yeah, it takes place in Paris. So that is in a different country from the UK, obviously. Next up is Grey Morality, a book with characters or themes that are morally gray. For this, I'm going to say the Dragon Republic again. I think Rin is a character who very much believes in the end justifying the means, so she's willing to use her powers to whatever end to achieve her goals and her goals for her country, even if that means a lot of problematic things will happen along the way. There were a lot of possibilities open for her at the end of the Poppy War, so yeah, that would be interesting if that shifts even more in the next book. Next is Undead Character, a book which includes an undead character. I'm going to say City of Fallen Angels again. Simon Lewis is a vampire. I've actually started reading the book and his vampirism is featuring a lot at the moment. LGBTQ+, a book with LGBTQ+ representation. I'm going to say City of Fallen Angels again because of Magnus and Alec. I'm not sure if there's anything in the rules about counting one book for 3 prompts, but I've seen other people on Twitter do it, so yeah, I'm gonna do that. Basically, this TBR video is finding every excuse to read City of Fallen Angels. Modern retelling, a modern retelling of a Gothic classic or a newer release which is described as Gothic. For this, I'm going to read My Plain Jane. This is written by the same people who did My Lady Jane, so Jodi Meadows, Cynthia Hand, and Brody Ashton. So this is a retelling of Jane Eyre, and it's supposed to be humorous, I guess. I'm a little nervous about this one because I read My Lady Jane and I hated it. So I'm going to give this series another chance, but if it doesn't improve on this book, then I'm not continuing it. But I do love the story of Jane Eyre. I've watched 2 adaptations in the last month, so yeah, I'm really down for more Jane Eyre in my life. Next up is Lies, a book where the title has liar, lies, or lying in it, or the main character is a liar. So I'm going with Dangerous Remedy again. So basically in this book we have a group of outcasts who are trying to save their families from the guillotine. So I guess they get involved with a lot of games of deception. So I guess I'm gonna count that as the main characters being liars. Like, deception is literally in this book blurb. That is my impression of the book. I could be wrong. Next up is Vampire Film / TV. Watch your favorite vampire TV series or film. No question, Interview with the Vampire. Probably my favorite vampire film of all time. This is probably Tom Cruise at his best, arguably Brad Pitt at his best. Just an amazing film, amazing adaptation of one of my favorite vampire books of all time. Next up is Dark Academia, a book set at University slash college with dark themes or vintage aesthetic. So I don't think this is necessarily set at a university or college, but the book I'm reading for this is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. So this is set at a very prestigious school where a murder happened, and the main character is this girl who decides to enroll there in order to solve this mystery. I've heard so many amazing things about this book and also this series, and apparently it's quite dark. So yeah, I think this book is great for dark academia. So that's it for my Gothtober TBR, and we're gonna move right along into the next readathon I'm doing this month, which is Trick or Treatathon. I believe this is also month-long. I think there's like 8 people hosting this readathon, so I'm not gonna name them all, but one of them is TB Kane, whose channel is awesome, and he's also just a really sweet person in general, so you should go watch his videos. So the prompts are as follows. The first one is Witch. Read a book with a female lead who will probably hex you if you mess with her. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Dragon Republic. I think Rin is perfectly capable of hexing you if she wants to, or if she can. You'll see that my 2 TBRs are going to overlap a lot because I just don't want to overwhelm myself. Number 2 is Vampire. Read a book with a love interest you shouldn't meet in a dark alley, but you want to. So for this prompt, I'm going to count City of Fallen Angels by Clare again. The love interest I had in mind was Jace Herondale. You should probably not bump into him in a dark alley because he is dangerous, but I also wouldn't mind bumping into Jace at the same time because in my mind he looks like Jamie Campbell Bower. Number 3 is Werewolf. Read a book only at night. I don't think this should be a problem because most of my reading is done at night. Number 4 is Ghost. Read a book set in a place you'd want to haunt. For this, I'm going to read The Magicians because I think the magic school, Breakbills, actually has a few ghosts haunting it. Yeah, I think I'd like to haunt a magic school. Number 5 is Demon. Read a book that has more than one POV, like those possessed by demons. For this, I'm going to read A Secret History of Witches, which is a multi-generational story of a family of witches. Since it's a multi-generational story, I'm going to presume that it has multiple points of view. And in general, this is just a book I've been wanting to read for a long time. There are witches in it. That's enough for me. Number 6 is Siren. Read a book someone has recommended to you. For this, I'm going to go with The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. There's a series of very popular video games based on those books, and now there is a very popular Netflix show based on them. This was recommended to me by my boyfriend. He really enjoyed the first few books and he likes the games, so I am going to start off with the books myself and maybe get into the games later. Number 7 is Faye. Read a book you've always been too scared to pick up. If we were going with the real spirit of this prompt, I probably would pick like a tome on my TBR, but I am trying to shave off my physical TBR. So for this one, I'm going to go with The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I think this was included in the same Owl Crate box as The Bone Houses last year. So from what I can tell, this is a classic horror novel about a family and their very haunted house. As I said before, horror isn't a genre I naturally gravitate towards. I like writers like Lovecraft, but still, I don't always pick up horror. So I haven't naturally gravitated towards this book, but I have been wanting to read more horror. So I think this is a good place to start. That's what people tell me. Also, this is a really horrifying cover. I have a thing about large eyes on covers. And number 8 is Zombie. Read a book that features a disaster. For this, I'm going to read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I think this book is about a bunch of girls at a girls' school and there's a disease spreading among them. Very on the nose for our current times. I've heard great things about this book. I've also heard there's a lot of body horror, which my tolerance for it varies, but I think I should be okay. It's just one of those really popular books that I feel like everyone has read and rates very highly, so yeah, that's a very fitting book for this prompt. So that is it for my October TBR. I will link the info for both of these readathons below. Let me know if you're doing either of these readathons and what you're planning to read. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you like hearing me rant about books and films. You can also follow me on Twitter and Goodreads and Instagram, and I will see you in my next video.